You can leave the boxes by the service door.
Leave now, or I will call security.
Those were the first words he heard when he walked into his own headquarters that morning. A stack of silence followed, heavy, deliberate. 3 receptionists froze mid-laugh, watching him as if he had taken a wrong turn into someone else's world. Elijah Cole didn't move. He just stood there, black hoodie, gray slacks, coffee in one hand, calm in the other. To them, he looked like a delivery driver. To the rest of the city, he was the man who built Cole Dynamics, a $4 billion tech empire that owned the very building he was standing in. But in that moment, none of that mattered, because perception spoke louder than truth. "Sir," the receptionist repeated, voice sharper this time. "Deliveries go through the loading dock. This is for executives only." Her words sliced the air like glass. Elijah blinked slowly, measured. He'd heard versions of that line his entire life, different tone, same translation. "You don't belong here." He didn't argue. Not yet. He placed the coffee on the marble counter. "I'm not here for a delivery," he said evenly. The woman scoffed, tilting her head toward the security desk. "Then you definitely need to wait outside. Our leadership team has a private meeting starting in 5 minutes." The irony almost made him smile, because he had called that meeting. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here." Now back to Elijah. He looked past the reception desk, through the glass wall that led to the executive boardroom. Inside, 6 men in tailored suits were already gathering. His board. The same board that had been quietly voting to push him out of his own company. They didn't know he was coming. He'd arrived early, alone, dressed down on purpose. A reminder to himself, never let comfort make you forget where disrespect hides. The security guard approached, a tall man in a Navy uniform, jaw tight with misplaced authority. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Deliveries through the back entrance." He gestured toward the elevator hall like he was shooing away a stray. Elijah's gaze didn't waver. "Is that protocol?" he asked quietly, "or assumption?" The guard hesitated, unsure how to answer. The receptionist jumped in before he could. "Sir, please don't make this difficult. The board's already in session." Elijah's phone buzzed once in his pocket, his assistant's message. "They think you're not coming." "Cameras are rolling," he exhaled slowly. Not anger. Preparation. Because sometimes the calm before justice sounds exactly like silence misunderstood. He turned toward the security guard. "You're right," he said softly. "This is for executives only." And with that, Elijah Cole, founder, CEO, and majority shareholder, walked past them without another word, straight toward the boardroom door they thought he'd never open. The boardroom was all glass and arrogance. 12 chairs, 1 long mahogany table, and a skyline that stretched like proof of success. They built it to feel untouchable. Clean lines, cold air, quiet power. And this morning Elijah Cole walked straight into it like an echo that didn't belong. The first to see him was Richard Vaughn, Chief Financial Officer. He glanced up from his tablet, frowning. "Excuse me, the delivery drops downstairs. We're in a meeting." Elijah didn't answer. He just closed the door behind him. The second voice came sharper, dripping with condescension. "Sir, this is a private session. We don't need catering today." That was Barbara Klein, Chief Operations Officer, 49, immaculate suit, the kind of person who never apologized unless it was in writing. She waved a dismissive hand. "Please step out." Elijah placed his coffee on the table. The silence that followed wasn't polite, it was territorial. He studied each face. Richard, Barbara, Damon Pierce, the interim chair who thought the word interim was temporary for everyone except himself. They were mid-discussion, documents spread open, slides glowing across the wall. The title read, Leadership Transition Strategy. That's when Elijah finally spoke. "Who's leading the transition?" Damon smirked. "Not sure you're authorized to ask that, What department are you from?" Elijah's tone stayed flat. "Ownership," a few chuckles. "The kind people give when they think they're still in control." Barbara crossed her arms. "We're busy, sir." Please what?" he interrupted softly. The way he said it froze the room for a second. Not loud, just deliberate. Richard tried to recover. "If you're from facilities, we can handle any requests after the meeting." Elijah looked him dead in the eye. You think I work in facilities? Richard's voice faltered. Well, you came in through the lobby without clearance, no badge. He didn't finish because Elijah had already turned the wall screen toward him with one motion. The room fell into the hum of redirected light. The slide flickered, replaced by a new one, automatically syncing from his phone. On the screen, Cole Dynamics Internal Review Protocol 7, Board Audit Live Session. Timestamp, 9:02 a.m. A hush. Barbara's color drained. What is this? Elijah answered calmly. A meeting. The real one. Damon's jaw tightened. You can't just walk in here and... I can, Elijah said, and I did. Because this building has cameras, and right now, every one of them is recording how bias runs this company before breakfast. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Barbara scoffed, Is this some kind of stunt? Elijah turned, walking to the head of the table, the chair that had been empty for 3 months since his so-called leave of absence. He sat down, slowly, without asking. The gesture itself was louder than shouting. Richard looked to Damon, panic barely masked. Call security. Damon didn't move. Elijah smiled faintly. Already did. They're waiting for my word, not yours. The projector beeped again. Another slide appeared, emails, signatures, timestamps. Every move the board had made to edge him out quietly, displayed in front of them. Elijah leaned back. You wrote me out of my own company while using my initials on the contract extensions. Barbara tried to stand. This is out of line. No, Elijah said, eyes calm. This is the line. And you crossed it. From the corner, his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, measured, steady. Mr. Cole, protocol is active. The shareholders panel is watching remotely. Every head in the room turned toward the speaker. Elijah clasped his hands. Good. Let them see how leadership looks when it forgets who built the foundation. The lights dimmed slightly as screens came alive around the room, each one labeled Shareholder Access, Live. Faces appeared in squares, silent witnesses. Barbara sank back into her seat. Damon's smirk dissolved. And Elijah Cole, once mistaken for a delivery man, now sat in the same chair they tried to erase him from, ready to deliver something they'd never forget. No one spoke for a full 10 seconds. The hum of the air conditioning filled the space like judgment. Elijah Cole sat at the head of the table, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on the projection. Every message, every signature that proved betrayal glowing across the glass wall like confession. Richard finally broke the silence. This is taken out of context, he stammered. Elijah didn't look up. Context doesn't change intent. Barbara straightened her blazer, forcing composure back into her shoulders. You can't just override board confidentiality. These are private deliberations. Elijah's voice dropped, steady, deliberate. You discussed replacing me while cashing my checks. Nothing about that is private. Damon exhaled sharply, trying to reclaim control. Elijah, let's be adults. The company's image has what? Elijah's tone sliced through him. Grown too black to fit your comfort zone? The question landed like thunder in a glass room. Barbara's lips parted, but no words came. Richard's tablet dimmed, notifications buzzing as emails were being flagged by compliance in real time. Elijah leaned forward. You see that? Protocol 7 routes every document you altered directly to our ethics division. No edits, no filters. The door opened quietly. A woman in a navy suit stepped in. Maya Trent, chief legal officer. Her presence changed the air immediately. Elijah, she said softly, then nodded toward the board. I've reviewed the audit feed. It's legitimate, Barbara blinked. You're siding with him? Maya's tone didn't waver. I'm siding with facts. Then to the room. The shareholders panel is requesting a statement from Mr. Cole, live. Elijah rose slowly, his shadow stretching across the table. He looked around at the faces that once smirked at him, each one now shrinking under the weight of being seen. I built this company with one rule, he said. Respect isn't branding, it's policy. He turned to the wall camera. This morning I walked through the lobby of the building my name built. The same lobby where security thought I was a delivery driver. That moment told me everything I needed to know about the culture you've created here. Richard shifted in his chair, whispering, That wasn't us. Elijah continued, voice steady as a metronome. When people stop seeing the architect and only see the stereotype, the foundation cracks, and you all let it crack. Maya stepped beside him, holding a tablet. The vote is ready. Elijah nodded once. Put it on screen. The display changed again, this time showing the live tally from shareholders watching remotely. Beside each board member's name, a small red mark appeared. Vote of no confidence. One by one, their privileges vanished. Logins revoked, system access revoked, real time. The digital sound of dismantled authority. Barbara whispered, "You planned this." Elijah turned his gaze toward her, calm and razor sharp. "No, you planned it. I just scheduled the meeting." He picked up his coffee, the same cup he'd set down when they called him a delivery man. Still warm, still his. He took a sip, eyes never leaving the board. "This," he said quietly, "is what delivery looks like." Outside the glass wall, employees had begun to gather, watching through the transparent partition as their CEO reclaimed his seat. No shouting, no chaos, just quiet reckoning. Elijah turned to Maya. "Send HR the directive. Effective immediately. Terminate all listed in the audit. Reassign operations to the interim compliance team." Maya nodded. "Consider it done." Damon finally found his voice brittle with panic. "You're making a mistake. The market will punish this kind of spectacle." Elijah smiled faintly. "Markets don't punish integrity, Damon. They reward it." He stepped toward the window, sunlight spilling across the floor like a curtain call. Below, the city buzzed, unaware that an empire had just shifted hands without a single raised voice. He looked back once, not to gloat, but to mark the moment. "Next time you see a man in a hoodie," he said, "try seeing the owner, not the stereotype." And with that, Elijah Cole walked out of the boardroom he no longer needed to prove he owned, leaving behind silence, consequence, and the sound of justice done quietly. The boardroom door shut behind Elijah like the end of an era. Inside, the silence didn't fade, it thickened. No one dared to move. No one dared to speak first. Maya Trent remained by the projector, her tablet glowing with confirmation logs. "Terminations processed," she said quietly. Her tone wasn't cruel, just final. Every red mark on the screen was another echo of consequence. Richard slumped in his chair, rubbing his temples. "We built this company together," he muttered. "You can't just erase people." Maya looked at him evenly. "You built a ceiling. Elijah just took off the roof." Outside the glass wall, whispers rippled through the hallway. Employees had gathered, assistants, analysts, interns, faces pressed to the partition. They weren't gawking. They were watching, witnessing something most only dream about. Accountability. Live. Barbara stood, shaky but still defiant. "This is humiliating. For all of us. Do you realize the headlines that'll come from this?" Maya didn't blink. Maybe for once the headline will match the truth. Then the door opened again. Elijah stepped back in, calm, collected, a faint drizzle of rain speckling his hoodie. He'd gone down to the lobby, to look every employee in the eye. He spoke without raising his voice. "There's no need for security to escort anyone out. You'll walk yourselves." He turned to the glass, nodding to the staff gathered outside. "Let them see how leadership looks when it's accountable." Barbara swallowed hard. "You can't fire a board like this." Elijah's tone was steel-wrapped in calm. "I didn't fire you. You resigned when you forgot who you worked for." Maya handed him the tablet again. "All access confirmed, revoked, HR transition ready." Elijah glanced down. "Good. And the culture audit?" "In motion," she replied. "Company-wide listening sessions next week, anonymous, transparent, your call." He nodded. "My promise." Richard stood, voice trembling between anger and disbelief. "This is chaos, Elijah. You think this show makes you a hero?" Elijah's eyes met his. "I'm not a hero. I'm a reminder," he paused. "That silence isn't professionalism, it's permission." He turned toward the camera mounted above the doorway. "Archive this session. Keep it public in the employee network." Maya hesitated. "All of it?" "All of it," Elijah said. "The mistake. The disrespect. The truth." Behind the glass, a young intern, Marcus, 24, black, fresh out of college, watched, eyes wide. He whispered to his colleague, "I've never seen anyone do that." His colleague replied, "That's what change looks like." Elijah's phone buzzed again. His assistant's message flashed. "Media caught wind. Press request coming in." He typed back, Tell them I'm not giving statements. The building will speak for itself. Turning back to the room, Elijah said one last thing before walking out for good. You wanted me gone because I didn't fit your image. Now you'll watch your reflection change without you. The words landed soft but heavy. Barbara sat down again, eyes wet. Not from guilt, but realization. Damon stared at the floor, stripped of the false power that once made him loud. Elijah walked past the glass wall slowly. Every step he took through the hallway drew quiet applause. Not cheers, respect. A janitor near the elevator nodded at him. Rough day, sir? Elijah smiled faintly. Good one, actually. The elevator doors closed. Through the mirrored reflection, his hoodie, his calm, his dignity, the image they once mistook for smallness, Lonoson looked, in that moment, like the truest form of power. By noon, the story had already left the building. What began as a quiet reckoning inside one glass boardroom spilled across the city like a spark finding oxygen. Phones buzzed. Screens lit up. Black CEO mistaken for delivery guy fires his entire board. The headline spread faster than any press release ever could. Outside Coal Dynamics headquarters, camera crews gathered. Drones hovered above the sleek glass tower, catching reflections of a company forced to look at itself. But inside Elijah's office, top floor, corner view, everything was still. He stood by the window, watching rain trace silver paths down the glass, calm amid chaos. Maya Trent entered quietly, holding 2 phones and a folder. CNN, Bloomberg, The Times, they all want you to comment. Elijah didn't turn. Let them talk first. The truth's already moving, she nodded. HR reports positive feedback from staff. Employees are calling it the morning everything changed. He almost smiled. Change isn't a morning. It's a habit. Let's make sure it lasts. Behind them, the TV on the wall flashed clips, anchors dissecting his every move. A panel of experts debated. Was it corporate courage or calculated PR? Did Elijah Cole just redefine accountability or risk investor trust? Elijah muted the screen. Funny how justice always needs subtitles before people believe it. He murmured. Maya studied him. They're going to paint you as angry. He turned then, eyes steady. Good, anger built half of America. The problem's when people pretend they don't feel it. Down in the lobby, a young reporter, Lena Ortiz, stood broadcasting live. Behind her, employees filtered through the revolving doors, voices low but proud. This morning, she said into the camera, a man mistaken for a delivery driver reclaimed ownership of a $4 billion empire, and in doing so, exposed what bias looks like in a tailored suit. Her segment went viral within the hour. Clips from inside the boardroom, recorded through company feeds, surfaced online. Elijah's calm voice saying, I didn't fire you. You resigned when you forgot who you worked for. That line became a quote, a meme, a mantra Twitter filled with hashtags to call reckoning, rejustice, in a hoodie LinkedIn flooded with think pieces about leadership and implicit bias. Some praised him. Others mocked him. But everyone was talking. At 1:47 p.m., Elijah's phone rang. Caller ID, Damon Pierce. He hesitated, then answered. Damon's voice was shaky, softer than before. Elijah, the board's lawyers are demanding mediation. They're calling your move unlawful. Elijah's tone was quiet, almost kind. Damon, I didn't fire you. I revealed you. There's a difference. A long pause. Then the line went dead. Maya looked up. You knew this would blow up like this. Elijah exhaled, eyes still on the rain. I hoped it would. Not for me. For the next one who walks through that lobby in a hoodie. Outside, the protest had begun. Small but powerful. Employees stood shoulder to shoulder, holding signs. Respect looks like this. Representation isn't radical. We belong here. A local musician set up a speaker playing soft jazz under the awning. It wasn't chaos, it was clarity. A company rebuilding its soul from the inside out. Elijah watched from above, voice low but certain. They mistook presence for delivery, but what I delivered was truth. Maya smiled faintly, and they signed for it. Elijah finally turned away from the window, slipping on his blazer, the same one he hadn't worn that morning. Schedule the press meeting, he said. Maya blinked. You're going to speak after all? Yes, he said, walking toward the door. But not to defend what happened, to define what comes next. He paused at the doorway, voice calm but cutting, because justice isn't revenge. It's restoration. By 4 p.m., the press conference room at Coal Dynamics was overflowing. Every news outlet, every blogger with a mic, every camera lens turned toward the same podium. The city outside hummed like a live wire, waiting for the man who had, in less than a day, rewritten how power moved. Elijah Cole stepped out from the side door. No entourage, no flash. Just a simple black suit, open collar, and the same quiet calm that had undone an empire that morning. The murmurs died instantly. He looked out over the sea of faces, some skeptical, some inspired, all waiting. He took a breath, then began. "Good afternoon. This morning I walked into my company, unannounced, unguarded, and unseen. And in less than 5 minutes I was mistaken for someone delivering packages instead of ideas." A ripple moved through the room. Journalists already typing. Elijah continued. "But I didn't stop them. Because sometimes you have to let people show you the truth before you can show them the cost." He rested both hands on the podium. "This isn't about embarrassment. It's about exposure, not of people but of systems. The ones that tell us what leadership should look like and who should be allowed to stand where." Maya watched from the wings, eyes fixed on him. No teleprompter. No cue cards, just raw, unscripted truth. Elijah scanned the front row. "You've asked if I regret what I did. I don't. You've asked if I'm angry. I am, but not at individuals. I'm angry at comfort. Comfort is where bias hides. Comfort is where accountability dies." The reporters were silent, some lowering their phones as if instinct told them to just listen. Elijah's tone softened. "When I started Coal Dynamics, I told my team one thing. Never let brilliance be confused with arrogance. Today I'll add this. Never let humility be mistaken for weakness." Behind him, screens lit up with images of his employees, the janitor, the interns, the engineers, all faces of a company too often represented by suits that didn't look like them. He gestured toward them. "These people built what you see outside. Their voices, their innovation, their courage. And if leadership ever forgets that again, then leadership doesn't deserve this company." A reporter raised her hand timidly. "Mr. Cole, what happens to the former board?" Elijah paused, then smiled faintly. "They're free to learn. Growth doesn't end when titles do." He leaned closer to the mic. "But they'll do that learning elsewhere." A ripple of laughter rolled through the room. Not cruel, just cleansing. Another voice shouted from the back. "Do you think what happened to you was racism?" Elijah's gaze steadied on the crowd. It was assumption. And assumption is the quiet cousin of racism. Dressed better, spoken softer, but just as dangerous. He let the silence breathe before continuing. "Every time we let assumption decide someone's worth, we shrink the world we claim to be building. That ends here. At least in this building, it ends here." Cameras flashed, but he didn't flinch. He wasn't performing. He was restoring balance. Today isn't about revenge. It's about return, of dignity, of ownership, of truth. He stepped back from the podium, voice firm but calm. "I'm not the story. I'm the signal." As he turned to leave, the room erupted. Not in clapping at first, but in standing. A quiet wave of people rising to their feet, recognizing not a scandal, but a standard. Maya met him at the exit. "They'll quote you everywhere," she whispered. Elijah smiled faintly. "Then maybe they'll finally hear us." And as the doors closed behind him, the sign above the entrance flickered on. Coal Dynamics, built by everyone, led by truth. By dawn the next day, the world had already decided what the story meant, or thought it had. Clips from Elijah's press conference flooded every platform. TikTok edits with captions, "He didn't yell. He didn't break. He built." LinkedIn essays from executives suddenly finding their diversity voice. Cable news debates looping the same 10 seconds. Assumption is the quiet cousin of racism. The sentence had become gospel, meme and mirror all at once. But inside Coal Dynamics, it wasn't noise. It was awakening. In the cafeteria, 2 young engineers talked over coffee. "You see the live stream?" one asked. "Yeah," the other replied. He didn't even have to shout. He just flipped the whole table with silence. Their supervisor passed by, listening, then stopped. For the first time, she didn't correct their tone. She listened too. Upstairs, Maya Trent's inbox overflowed. Resumes, partnership offers, invitations to panels. Everyone suddenly wanted to be part of the story. She ignored most of them. Instead, She opened the internal feedback channel Elijah had ordered reactivated. Hundreds of anonymous messages poured in overnight. Thank you for seeing us. I've been passed over 3 times for a promotion. Maybe now it'll mean something when I speak up. For once, I'm proud to say I work here. She smiled, then forwarded the entire folder to Elijah. Subject line: the company you just rebuilt. Meanwhile, outside the tower, protest signs had been replaced by thank you banners. Someone had projected his quote across the opposite building in 20-foot letters. Justice doesn't need a megaphone, just a microphone. The footage hit social media before sunrise. By mid-morning, a local news anchor stood across the street reporting live. In less than 24 hours, Coal Dynamics has gone from controversy to case study. Employees call it the culture reset heard around the world. Elijah watched the broadcast quietly from his office, sleeves rolled up, a mug of black coffee in hand. He didn't smile, not yet. The work wasn't over. He knew symbols fade if they don't become systems. Maya stepped in holding a tablet. Good news and bad news, she said. He looked up. Start with the bad. The board's lawyers filed a preliminary injunction. They want their positions reinstated. He nodded once, unsurprised. And the good? The shareholders filed an opposing motion. Unanimous. That made him look up. All of them? All of them, Maya confirmed. Even the ones who used to keep their cameras off during meetings. Elijah leaned back. Maybe silence finally got loud enough. Down in the lobby, security guards greeted him differently that morning. Good to see you, Mr. Cole. He nodded back. Good to be seen. As he walked toward the revolving doors, a delivery driver entered. Young, nervous, holding a package. The same receptionist from yesterday straightened immediately. Sir, right this way, we'll get you checked in. Elijah stopped, watching her tone soften, her posture shift. He smiled slightly. Progress, even in small gestures, was still revolution. When he stepped outside, the city met him with noise. Reporters, supporters, critics, all shouting versions of his name. But over the chaos, a child's voice cut through. Mom, that's him! The guy from the hoodie! Elijah turned. A boy no older than 8 was holding his mother's hand, grinning wide. Hi, Elijah said, crouching to his level. What did you learn from the story, kid? The boy thought for a second. That sometimes the boss looks like me. Elijah's eyes softened. He stood, looked up at the skyline, and exhaled. That, he said quietly, is the only headline I care about. Back inside the tower, the lights of Coal Dynamics glowed against the morning haze. And for the first time in years, the building didn't just look powerful, it felt fair. By midweek, the air around Coal Dynamics had changed, sharper, cleaner, but charged. For every person inspired by Elijah Cole's quiet defiance, another somewhere felt threatened by it. Behind closed doors across the city, in boardrooms, law firms, private clubs, whispers turned into strategy. To some, Elijah's act wasn't justice. It was insubordination dressed in heroism, a headline that had gone viral at their expense. And they wanted equilibrium, or what they thought that meant. One evening, as dusk painted the skyline in amber, Maya Trent entered Elijah's office carrying a thick envelope. Anonymous, she said. He glanced up from his laptop. Threats or invitations? Both, she replied. He opened it, legal notice. An unofficial memo from a coalition of investors. They were requesting his temporary resignation pending review. The same language that had once removed him before Elijah exhaled through. His nose not surprised, not shaken. History, he said, has a short attention span. Maya frowned. They're not giving up quietly. He turned the letter over, reading the small print. Neither am I. He walked to the window. Outside, the reflection of the tower shimmered in the glass of neighboring buildings. You see that? He said. Every time truth stands, someone tries to measure it. Maya leaned against the desk. You know they'll spin this as ego. Elijah nodded. Let them. Power's always loudest when it's losing control. That night, an email blast went out to all employees, directly from Elijah. Subject line, the review they asked for. Body, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Open forum. No titles, no hierarchy. Everyone's voice on record. Let's find out who really works for this company. The next morning, the auditorium filled beyond capacity. Engineers, custodians, executives, interns, standing shoulder to shoulder. Cameras live-streamed the event internally. Elijah walked on stage wearing no suit, no podium between him and them. Just a mic. Just truth. "I've been asked to step aside again," he began. The room fell silent. This time, not by the people in this building, but by those who think they still own its reflection. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Maya stood backstage watching him take control of the storm without raising his voice. Elijah continued. "They said I made a scene, that I embarrassed leadership, that I acted without respect." He paused, letting each word weigh itself down before the next. "But tell me, since when did holding a mirror become disrespectful?" Applause broke through the silence, hesitant at first, then building like a tide. He raised a hand gently, asking for quiet. "I didn't come here to perform rebellion. I came to normalize truth. If that scares anyone, maybe it's because truth doesn't need permission to exist." He walked closer to the edge of the stage. "You built this company. You are this company. If my leadership ever stops protecting that, you don't owe me loyalty. You owe me resistance." Someone from the back shouted, "We've got your back, Elijah." The words echoed through the hall, caught by microphones and hearts alike. Elijah smiled slightly, eyes glinting with both gratitude and resolve. "This isn't about me staying. It's about us standing." He gestured to Maya. "Ms. Trent, please begin the open session." She stepped forward, tablet in hand, voice steady. "By company policy, all present may vote on leadership confidence. Anonymous, immediate." Within minutes, screens across the room lit up. "Yes, 98%. Cursing to 2%. The crowd erupted not in chaos but unity, a sound somewhere between relief and revolution. Elijah looked out, eyes misted but unwavering. "They wanted review," he said quietly. "We gave them democracy." Outside the building, cameras caught the moment, an entire company standing, clapping, cheering under banners that read, "Led by Truth." But not everyone was clapping. Across the city, in a high-rise tinted with secrecy, the former board watched the live stream in silence. Barbara leaned forward, her voice low and certain. "If he thinks this is over," she said, "he's mistaken." Night draped the city in glass and neon when the message reached Elijah's phone. Just one line, unsigned, "Enjoy your victory." "It expires at sunrise." He stared at it for a moment, then locked the screen. Threats, veiled or otherwise, no longer startled him. But they did mean one thing. He'd hit a nerve. Down in the streets below, the headquarters still glowed, its logo newly bright, its lobby newly open. Inside, janitors wiped marble floors that for once didn't echo fear. The company had found rhythm again. But outside those walls, a different rhythm was forming, one built on resentment and revenge. Across town, in a penthouse lined with art and litigation, 3 familiar faces sat around a sleek black table. Barbara, Richard, and Damon. The air between them was bitter, recycled from old arrogance. Barbara tossed a folder onto the table. "Whistleblower complaint. Anonymous but guided. It claims misuse of internal surveillance and corporate retaliation." Richard looked nervous. "Do we have proof?" She smirked. "We have narrative. Proof is just the costume Truth wears to dinner." Damon leaned back, lighting a cigar despite the no-smoking sign on the wall. "He humiliated us on camera. You really think investors will stay silent forever?" Barbara shook her head. "No, we just need to remind them where their comfort lies. And comfort never sides with confrontation." The plan was simple: leak half a truth, twist it until it looked whole. A rumor about data breaches, an audit gone too far. By morning, the story would shift. Black CEO oversteps, faces inquiry. Poetic in their minds, cowardly in truth. Back in his apartment overlooking the skyline, Elijah sat at his kitchen counter, laptop open, news alerts streaming like static. Maya's name flashed on the screen. "Incoming call," he answered. "They're moving," she said. "I know," he replied. "They've got journalists chasing fake leads and a private firm's drafting an ethics complaint." He poured coffee into a chipped mug, steady hands. "Let them draft. We'll print receipts." "Elijah, this could get ugly," she warned. He smiled faintly. "Ugly's fine. It's honest." He stood, pacing toward the window where city lights flickered like witnesses. "Maya, remember what I told you day one?" She hesitated, About silence? He nodded. Silence doesn't protect power. It just delays the truth, she exhaled. Then we fight back? No, Elijah said softly. We don't fight. We reveal. The next morning, headlines hit like rain. Accusations, half-truths, anonymous sources. Every outlet carried a version of the story, none carrying the whole. Elijah Cole under investigation for misuse of internal systems. He spied on his own board. Claims insider. Did justice go too far? The lobby filled with murmurs. Some employees looked worried, others furious. But by 9:15 a.m., every screen in the building flickered to life. Elijah appeared live, standing in the same boardroom that had once tried to bury him. His tone was calm, surgical. I've seen the headlines, he began. So let's start with facts. Behind him, data logs, timestamps, and security authorizations appeared one by one. Every audit, every order, every consent form, documented. He walked toward the camera. I told you this company would be transparent. Even if it means showing how far power goes to protect itself. The chat feed on the live stream exploded. Curse show the receipts. We believe Cole. In another building across the city, Barbara slammed her laptop shut. He's turning defense into theater, Richard muttered. And everyone's buying tickets. Elijah continued, voice rising just enough to cut through the static of rumor. Every file you've seen tonight was signed by the same people who now call it misconduct. I didn't breach privacy, I exposed hypocrisy. He paused. If seeking truth is a crime, then build me a cell out of transparency. I'll sleep fine. For a second, the live stream froze on his face, unflinching, unbothered, unbroken. Then it cut to black with a single line. Integrity isn't public relations. It's proof. The internet caught fire. By midnight, the false complaint had collapsed under its own timeline errors. The coalition's bluff was unraveling. But Barbara wasn't done. She closed her laptop, stood and said quietly to Damon, if light can expose us, then maybe it can blind him too. And in that moment, her next move took shape. One that wouldn't come through courts or cameras, but through someone far closer to Elijah than he expected. The next evening, the city glimmered like a promise half-kept. Cole Dynamics Tower stood calm and radiant, but inside, beneath its polished floors, trust began to crack. Maya Trent sat alone in her office, staring at her computer screen. An encrypted message blinked on her monitor. Urgent, confidential review documents. Board compensation audit. It came from a familiar address, Elijah's, except it wasn't. She hesitated, hovered her mouse over the attachment, then clicked. A progress bar crawled across the screen, then vanished. The file opened empty. 5 seconds later, her phone vibrated. A notification from the IT department. Unauthorized data access detected, CFO archives. Her pulse spiked. No, she whispered, already realizing what had just happened. By morning, headlines bloomed like weeds. Insider leak at Cole Dynamics. CEO's legal chief under investigation. Did Elijah Cole's own team turn against him? The irony was perfect. The timing was surgical. And the fingerprints, forged. At 7:42 a.m., Elijah's phone lit up with a dozen missed calls. Maya's name again and again. He answered the next one, voice calm but colder than usual. Maya, talk to me. I didn't send anything, she said, breath sharp. Someone used my credentials. He didn't accuse, didn't soothe. Just silence. Deep, calculating silence. Then softly, they're coming for credibility now. Yes, she said. And they're using my name to get it. He looked out his office window. Across the street, a news van idled, camera aimed at his building. The story had evolved overnight, from courage to corruption. At 8:03 a.m., the lobby filled again, not with applause this time, but with cameras. Journalists pressed microphones toward employees as they entered. Do you still trust your CEO? Was the audit legal? Are you staying? Inside, the mood was split down the middle. Loyalty versus fatigue. Progress had made them proud, but pressure made them fearful. By 8:20, Maya walked into Elijah's office. Her eyes were red, voice hoarse. I'll step down until this clears, she said. Elijah shook his head slowly. No, that's what they want, distance. She looked at him, trembling. Then what do we do? He walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small black drive. We go back to the beginning. He plugged it in. The screen filled with archived security footage. The lobby, the boardroom, the day of the original confrontation. He'd kept it all off-grid, untouched, because truth without memory fades fast. He scrolled to a folder labeled Board Internal Communications. There, buried among thousands of routine emails, a hidden thread appeared. One name stood out. Trent M. Maya froze. That's my name, Elijah clicked. The emails weren't real, but they were flawless imitations, fake correspondence showing her coordinating with a journalist fabricating proof. He exhaled. They cloned your identity. Maya whispered, how? Elijah's eyes hardened. Because someone gave them access. He tapped another file, opening a network log. At the bottom, one signature line. Authorized Pierce D. Damon Pierce. The man who once tried to replace him, now reaching through digital shadows to finish what public humiliation couldn't. Elijah closed the laptop. They didn't hack us, he said quietly. They borrowed someone close enough to know where we'd never look. Maya's voice trembled. What are you going to do? He turned toward the window, rain streaking the skyline like veins of glass. Exactly what they fear most, he said. Tell the truth before they can weaponize it. That afternoon, Elijah walked into the press room again. But this time, no prepared speech, no audience of allies. Just one live camera feed, his voice unedited, unscripted. I'm told my company's under investigation again, he began. Good, because this time everyone deserves to see what investigation really looks like. He paused, steady, relentless. This isn't about leaks. It's about loyalty, and what happens when you mistake silence for safety. Someone wants to rewrite the narrative. Let them write. I own the printing press. He leaned closer to the lens. And to whoever forged the name of someone who stood for integrity since day one, I see you. And when I finish what you started, the world will see you too. Then he ended the stream. No slogan, no fade to black. Just one sentence on the company's homepage afterward. Truth doesn't panic. In an office across the city, Barbara watched the feed end. She looked at Damon. He's not playing defense anymore. Damon smiled thinly. No, he said. He's setting a trap. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. It drummed against the glass of Coal Dynamics Tower like a countdown. Each drop felt like a second ticking toward something inevitable. Inside, the atmosphere had shifted again. Employees spoke in whispers. Security scanned every visitor twice. The media spun its own theories, each headline competing for oxygen. But Elijah Cole was quiet. Too quiet. He spent the morning in his private workspace, a small, dim-lit room few even knew existed. No assistants, no legal team, just him, a stack of files, and a single glowing monitor. On it, a network map. Every system in the company, every login, every hidden trail left behind. He wasn't hunting a rumor anymore. He was hunting the architect of it. At 9:14 a.m., Maya entered quietly, dark circles beneath her eyes. You haven't slept. Elijah didn't look up. Sleep's a luxury for people who trust their walls. She set down a thermos of coffee beside him. You think it's Damon? I don't think, he said. I know. But I need him to prove it for me. She frowned. How do you bait a man who already hates you? Elijah finally looked at her, eyes calm but sharp. You don't bait him. You let him bait himself. That afternoon, an internal memo appeared in the company system, unsigned but traceable to Elijah's office. It read, to all department heads, confidential restructuring proposal in progress. Effective Friday. All board-related contracts to be nullified pending CEO review. Within 20 minutes, the memo had been leaked to the press. By 40 minutes, a copy reached Damon Pierce's inbox, forwarded by a trusted contact. Exactly as planned. Damon didn't hesitate. He forwarded it to Barbara with a single line. Got him. Overreach on record. What he didn't know was that Elijah had embedded a digital signature, an invisible tracer that revealed every transmission, every device, every location. The leak wasn't a breach. It was a breadcrumb trail. Maya watched as the live feed on Elijah's screen lit up, red markers appearing across the city grid. There, Elijah said, pointing. Suite 44B, Horizon Tower, Barbara's office. And another, Suite 44C, Damon's, right next door. He leaned back, exhaling. They never learned subtlety. Are we going to the police? Maya asked. Elijah shook his head. No, we're going to the truth. He sent one message, 5 words, to the same anonymous coalition that had once tried to oust him. Emergency board meeting. 4 p.m. By dusk, the building was sealed. The rain turned heavier, echoing through the glass lobby as black cars lined the curb. Security escorted everyone to the top floor. Barbara, Damon, Richard, faces pale but proud, each convinced they were walking into Elijah's downfall. The boardroom lights dimmed as they entered. Elijah stood at the head of the table. No security, no lawyers, just presence. Behind him, a single screen glowed with the Coal Dynamics emblem. "Evening," he said evenly. "Let's talk about trust." Barbara dropped a file on the table. "You violated company ethics and weaponized surveillance." Damon folded his arms. "We've got proof." Elijah tilted his head. "Proof?" He gestured toward the screen. It flickered, revealing a real-time trace map, the one he'd built that morning. Red lines connected every unauthorized email, every forged signature, every leak. At the center, a blinking name. "Pierce D." The room fell dead silent. Barbara froze. What is this?" Elijah's tone stayed calm. "Evidence yours from your own devices." Damon's jaw tightened. "You set me up." Elijah smiled slightly. "No, Damon, I set the truth free. You just walked into it." He stepped forward, every movement deliberate. "For weeks, you've hidden behind lies and forged loyalty. You tried to turn integrity into scandal, and now the audit you feared most is happening in real time." The doors behind them locked with a soft mechanical click. On the screen, a live video appeared. Shareholder emergency session active. Every major investor was watching. Elijah looked directly into the nearest camera. "Transparency isn't revenge," he said. "It's revelation." Damon tried to stand. "You can't do this." Elijah's voice cut through him, calm but final. "I already did." One by one, their access badges flashed red. Security entered, silent, professional. Barbara's voice broke. "You planned this the whole time." Elijah turned toward her. "No, I planned to rebuild this company. You planned to destroy it. The difference is execution." Maya stepped forward with a folder. "All correspondence verified, timestamps confirmed, forged signatures logged." Elijah nodded. "Send copies to the regulators, shareholders, and the press." She hesitated. "All of it?" "All of it," he repeated. The room filled with the sound of emails sending, a soft digital storm of accountability. Damon stared at him, defeated but defiant. "You think this makes you untouchable?" Elijah shook his head slowly. "No, it makes me transparent. And that's something you could never fake." He turned toward the camera again. "To everyone watching, power doesn't corrupt, people do. And when they do, systems must choose silence or sunlight." He paused, eyes steady. "I choose sunlight." As the feed cut out, rain thundered against the glass like applause. Outside, the city lights reflected in the wet pavement. 1,000 points of light, each one a little brighter than before. The storm broke at dawn. Rainwater pooled along the marble steps of Coal Dynamics like a mirror, and for once the reflection looked clean. Inside, the building was awake but quiet. No shouting, no panic, just the steady rhythm of keys clicking and lives resetting. For the first time in months, the headquarters didn't feel like a battleground. It felt like truth had taken the corner office. Elijah Cole stood alone in the lobby, looking up at the glass atrium that had once been the scene of his humiliation. The same place where a receptionist had told him to use the delivery door. Now the plaque beside the elevator bore a single inscription: "Integrity enters through every door." He smiled faintly. Not pride, closure. Maya Trent approached, a tablet in hand. Shareholders confirmed the transition. All former board members formally removed. The Department of Commerce is citing the case as a new model for corporate transparency. Elijah nodded. "Good. Maybe it means more people can build without breaking." She hesitated, then asked softly, "And you? You're staying on?" He looked past her to the sunlight spilling across the floor. "I think leadership should be a relay, not a throne. Maybe it's time I hand the baton, while the light's still clean." Maya frowned. "You're resigning?" He smiled. "Evolving." Then quieter. "You'll do fine. You were the truth when everyone else was noise." He turned toward the employees now gathering in the lobby, hundreds of them, silent, waiting. He didn't need a microphone. His presence was enough. "When I walked in here weeks ago," he began, "people saw a hoodie and forgot to see a human being. Since then, we've all seen what assumption costs. and what accountability restores. He paused, letting the moment breathe. This building doesn't belong to me. It belongs to everyone who walks in and decides to see people as equals, not exceptions. He looked around, faces reflecting hope, relief, and something stronger: belief. I didn't win today, we did. Because truth didn't whisper this time, it echoed. The crowd erupted in quiet applause. Not loud, not staged, but deeply human. Several employees wiped tears. Others simply nodded. Maya stood at his side, eyes glassy but proud. As the sound faded, a voice from the back called out, "Mr. Cole, if you could say one thing to those who tried to destroy you, what would it be?" Elijah smiled, the kind of smile that carried both exhaustion and victory. "I'd thank them," he said. "They reminded me that dignity isn't given, it's proven." He turned toward the massive glass doors, the same ones that once felt like walls. Now they slid open without hesitation. Outside, the sky was clear, the city alive again. Reporters waited, but he didn't stop for them. He simply adjusted his sleeves, stepped into the light, and walked down the steps, not as the man who fought to belong, but as the man who no longer needed to. Cameras followed, flashes reflecting off puddles like lightning chasing its echo. He paused halfway down, looked back once at the tower that bore his name. "Keep building," he murmured. Then he walked away, disappearing into the hum of the city he just reshaped. That evening, the company released its final internal statement, written by Maya herself. It read, "Leadership isn't power. It's permission and for others to rise." Elijah Cole gave us that permission. And beneath it, one line he'd left behind on the office whiteboard: "Justice doesn't shout. It stands." The lights in the building dimmed one by one, each window glowing briefly before fading. A silent salute to the man who had turned humiliation into history.